What's going on, ladies and gents? We finally have the reveal car, but it's a little more revealed than we would have initially liked it to be. So, quick background story. This is a 2012 Nissan GTR. I actually happened to build this exact engine that's in this vehicle. I built it for a client of mine about 3 years ago. This was meant to go in a gray car, so we initially took the blown engine out of a gray car. Got a brand new short block from Nissan back when it wasn't almost 10 grand for a freaking short, bare block. And we built him a SPL 1400 is what we call it, stock girdle, but upgraded ARP main studs, brand new stock crankshaft that we used at the time, T1 high compression diamond pistons with the TP1 DLC coated pins, and at the time we also did a stage 1 speed lap cylinder head package. I believe, if my memory serves correctly, pocket ported cylinder heads. We used GSC valve train at the time, and we used the T1 cylinder head gaskets at the proper thickness to make sure the tensioners are working properly. With all that being said, I saw this car for sale and I couldn't pass up on the opportunity, just because I've always wanted to have a GTR. We've been working on them for 6-7 years now. I didn't buy this car to just tap into the GTR market and take over. Obviously there are many big shops that do this work already. However, we're super versed in this vehicle as far as the engine goes, transmission goes, and now the calibration side of things. We're master tuners for Ecutech. This particular vehicle is going to be getting a Motec. We actually have everything for it. We'll show you guys later. What happened is, as soon as I acquired the car, the transmission failed. Like literally as soon as I sat in the car to drive it home, trans failed. But when I purchased the car, I purchased the second transmission, a backup transmission that was built. I said no problem, as soon as I get to the shop, I'm just gonna drop the subframe, get the GR6 out and put that built transmission in there. That transmission was supposed to be a Shep 1K, which as most of you guys know, it's a $14,000 or so transmission. Actually a little bit more, I think, 15K trans. And it was supposed to have a drag pack, so it's a very distinct transmission. I mean, you can't get it mixed up with anything. On the diff cover, it has ARP bolts. It has a T1 brace on the rear differential. It has literally a billet pan. And, I was anticipating all that stuff, but when Tony went to pick up the transmission that night, the transmission showed up, and not only did it not have the drag pack, there was no stamping on the mid plate, which Shep always does that with all of his transmissions. So I already knew it was not a Shep 1K. It wasn't a Shep built transmission at all. We didn't know what it was. Long story short, we got that transmission sent out, and that's when I kind of figured out what I want to do with the car and what kind of power I want to make. Given that the fact that it is a stock crank deal, I kind of planned the whole build around that. But I upgraded a lot of other things, and I bought a lot of other parts that will support well over 2,000 horsepower. Later on, if we do decide to go crazy with this thing, which knowing me, we probably will, just for shits and giggles. For the time being, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of the Schweitzer turbo kit, which is what we're doing right now. So this thing has a Schweitzer turbo kit from like 13 years ago, so they're ancient. They're 3071s, I believe. They spool like stock turbos. It's insane how fast they spool, but obviously they're power limited. This is actually a full Schweitzer setup, so it has a Schweitzer front mount intercooler, Schweitzer intakes. It had a Schweitzer 12 injector manifold, which was the stock manifold that was modified for 12 injectors. Schweitzer cams. I mean, everything on this car was Schweitzer, but super old school, like FIC 1200s, primaries and secondaries. And this car initially used to be on a Civex ECU. When my client got the engine from me, they put it on an M-Tron. Before I took it apart, it had an M-Tron, and right now the M-Tron is just sitting in there, but it's going to get replaced with an M150. So we got an M150 from T1 with all the harnesses that we need to do everything that we need to do with this car. We got the exhaust back pressure sensors. We're going to show you guys all that stuff because it's going to be super cool. Super hard to, do all this work and then do this in the background and have a healthy lifestyle, go to the gym, go home on time and like do all this stuff. But guys, I'm trying. I swear I'm trying to show you guys all the stuff that we're doing, not miss any installs, not miss anything, just show you guys everything. But anyway, we got the whole fleet of the sensors that we needed. So we got a coolant pressure sensor, We got 5-bar map sensors. That's going to be more than sufficient for what we have now. Obviously all the pressure sensors that we're going to be monitoring, flex fuel sensor, although this car is not going to be on pump gas at all. We're going to monitor it, and you know, depending on how many maps we decide to have, you know, just based on ethanol content, you know, maybe give it a little bit more power, a little bit less power. We got a C1 1212 dash again from T1. I was actually on the phone with Stuart, T1, just a couple hours ago. And I told them to send me the calibration file for the T1. It's a locked calibration file, their own proprietary one that they have, that they send with the dash, just in case I want to modify my own and make my own display, which I'll spend, you know, a couple days doing probably, just because it's super cool to have that. So that's that. As far as the transmission goes, we got a Shep Stage 4 transmission. So the Stage 4 transmission is rated for 1200 foot-pounds of torque, which means in excess of 1600 wheel. But we went to the ProMax 1111 clutch, which adds another 100 foot-pounds of torque capacity. Obviously you can surpass those numbers, but that's what they're rated for. While I was at it, I also added a billet mid plate, Datsun billet mid plate, billet front wheel drive output pinion gear and output shaft, one reverse billet shift for, and a couple other things that I added. So it's like a Stage 4 plus transmission. While we were at it and we were doing the drivetrain stuff, I got the level 4 DSS axles, and I actually shipped that to Shep as the transmission was there so they could fit it properly in the differential, so you know, we don't have any pop outs or anything weird like that, and we don't have to send the transmission back. So as you guys might have guessed, that's already set me back quite a bit, so we're not gonna really talk about how much this whole thing's costed me. So just the drivetrain stuff. Oh, and I also got a billet diff from PPC, everything billet, not just like the housing. So side cover billet, billet ring and pinion. That's rated for over 2,000 horsepower. It'll take all the launches. Wave track. As far as everything else goes, I'm just gonna do a quick overview before we drop this and show you guys the actual turbos going on and stuff. We're gonna ditch this turbo kit and we're gonna go with the Boost Logic 1300X turbo kit, which is sitting in one of those boxes over there. We have a race or ultimate intercooler showing up from Boost Logic tomorrow. That's a 6-inch intercooler with 3-inch inlet, 3-inch outlets. We got titanium Boost Logic intercooler piping, upper and lower. Boost Logic 12 injector manifold, so we are upgrading the manifold. We're gonna keep the stock throttle bodies because stock throttle bodies are awesome. It's called the CFS Complete Fuel System from T1. So that includes all the lines from the fuel pump hanger to the engine, essentially to the fuel rails. There's gonna be a fuel filter in line. Fuel pressure regulator. Like I said, the flex fuel kit is going to be there for ethanol content measurements. Lower rails are going to be T1, the upper rail is going to be Boost Logic. 1050X is primaries and 1700X is secondary. The E5LM pump, so the brushless pump, which is a Thai automotive pump, but T1 sells a hanger for it. That you can actually do dual pump if you later want to do that, but right now we're going to have a single pump. And we have the Injector Dynamics fuel pump controller. So with that controller, one thing that's super nice is we can actually pulse width modulate that pump. So we don't have to run it, you know, with a map sensor or anything like that. We can literally just pulse width modulate the pump with the Motec via a CAN connector, so we don't have to have 50 wires running into it. And the nice thing is it's a brushless pump, and that single pump with that controller will flow over 2,000 horsepower worth of fuel for ethanol. So, you know, if this thing was on C16, that would be like 3,000 plus horsepower worth of fuel with one fuel pump. So it's a brushless fuel pump. It looks like a Walbro 255, a little bit longer, and it can flow up to 2,000 horsepower on ethanol. That's insane. So what we're doing is we're literally taking this and we're just modernizing this car and bringing it back to life and basically making it what it would have been if this was my car from the beginning. So now it's my car. Now I get to do all that stuff, and you know, just throw my life savings at the freaking car, because that's I seem to be, you know, good at that. It does have the Schweitzer cams, which I have no idea what spec they are. I don't think there's any information online about it at all, actually. So what I did is I gave my buddy Greg at GSC a call, and he sent me a set of S3s, or 2 sets rather, because it's got 2-cylinder heads and blue overhead cam. We're not going to do anything with the oil pump. There's a small leak on the oil filter housing. very common on the GTRs. Hoping to be somewhere around the 1400, 1450-ish ballpark. Given the fact that it's a stock crank, and you know, you don't want to really push it that far past that. And you know, they say it's good for 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. You know, Evos are good for 400 foot-pounds of torque, but we surpass that from time to time. So I don't know, we'll kind of see how it goes. Over here we can see that the factory loom has been tapped into. This is why I actually ordered a brand new loom from Nissan that we have, that's gonna go in whenever the, you know, everything that we do on the engine gets wrapped up. But this is so the M-Tron can control everything, and it's been essentially spliced off from the harness, I guess for direct control on the M-Tron because of the you know what, I wouldn't even know, but that's what this is. I mean, it's going from this to sub harness for the M-Tron. Like this goes to the M-Tron. I'm so fucking confused, man. Okay, that's the secondary injector harness. So this is for the secondary injector harness, and this gets plugged into this. So essentially, this is so that the ECU, so this gets repurposed on the OEM pinout, so the ECU can control the secondary injector harness. The thing with it is it just takes some patience, you know, like you can't, once you get frustrated, you kind of have to walk away. It's one of those deals. Otherwise, it's not too difficult. I mean, like I said, like if this was a stock car, you wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. The fuel pressure regulator is right next to the battery. I mean, look, they did what they had to do previously when they put it together, I suppose, because it worked until we blew the radiator and decided to take the whole car apart. Sorry. If anybody wants like Schweitzer stuff, all this stuff's for sale, because what the fuck am I gonna do with it?
I wanted it.
For what?
My Highlander.
This is one problem right here. Look at that. The turbo bolts are backing out. The hot side bolts are backing out, rather. So this is an internally gated setup, so your back pressure limited on something like this to begin with, but very interesting. So what I want to do is I want to actually pull the inlet off and kind of check to see like the health of the turbo. But just look at like how this thing is like. Look at how compact this thing is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a giant turbo still like fitted in this thing, but holy crap.
There's a rumor going around that you're gonna unbox those turbos right now.
There is, after I say bye to my customer though.
Oh man.
Not right now. It does. Alright, so for today, we just kind of figured out our game plan and what we're gonna do. We obviously have to do, you know, the front diff, like I said, so it has to, the engine has to lift from the subframe. Have to replace the wiring harness. We have to put new cams in. We're getting brand new tensioners, chains, like I said, from Nissan. So that stuff's coming tomorrow along with a gasket set. But realistically, we might just, you know, take off the bell housing and just put it on an engine stand until we finish that. And then we can drop everything back on and drop the turbos on. Now, before I even connect any lines or anything like that, what I want to do is I just want to quickly test fit the turbos and kind of see how they look compared to the, you know, old Schweitzer stuff, and kind of see where the piping goes. So you know, the hot side piping and the titanium outlet, or rather inlet, I just want to see kind of where they line up. So just for shits and giggles, we'll just do a quick test fit here.
Dude, this shit looks so good.
Looks so beautiful. So Boost Logic actually coats every single one of their turbo kits, so it's not like anything special that they've added. And this is a ceramic coat, so it's not powder coat, obviously, to withstand heat. And they fully assemble everything when they send it to you. So obviously we're gonna nut and bolt all these compressor cover bolts and exhaust housing bolts, or turbine housing bolts rather. But it's all clocked perfectly, so you can just, you know, drop in the wastegate and be good to go. Obviously, like I said, it doesn't have any oil lines or anything on it, but right now we're just test fitting, so looks too pretty to scratch up.
Dude, that looks so good.
Nice Garrett cores. I mean, those are ginormous.
Boost Logic side and the Switzer side. I like that side a little bit better.
Quite a bit different, right?
Yeah.
And I like how they don't do the coating here. Obviously, because this thing actually flexes and the coating will probably chip off, but it actually gives it a super nice contrast that I really like. We're not going to get rid of this, but we're getting rid of this bracket. And we're also getting rid of this because, again, we have the Boost Logic 3-port Mac valve that goes directly on the manifold. So, damn, Chris, look at that. Looks nice, huh?
I like it.
Looks like it'll make some jam.
A lot. I've seen a fair share of twin turbo Huracans and R8s and all that, and this is probably the nicest kit I've ever seen. Ever.
Boost Logic stuff is definitely nice, man. I mean, craftsmanship is definitely there.
It seems like it's time for a beer.
I think you guys should definitely go get yourself a beer at this point.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Absolutely.
So, grab a cold one. I'm about to go grab a cold one. I actually have one in the office today.
Hey, can I get one too?